What's going on YouTube? Today I want to talk about a process that took me many years to kind of figure out and something that's crucial to being an accurate and good bow hunter. So everybody thinks about rifles and you think, man, what kind of ammunition should I use? You got so many different options out there, what you can actually use, and a lot of people go with the cheapest option. Well, is the cheapest option always the best option? No. You look at any rifle company and they say this gun can shoot sub half-inch MOA at 100 yards with premium ammo. Well, that's very important because if you want to be accurate bow hunter, sometimes it is better to have that premium product. That being said, you've seen it time and time again with a lot of these professional bow hunters that say, hey, I built this $500 bow and I'm getting the same results. But if you look at one thing that they really aren't changing, because they're using the same thing that they use on their professional setup, and that's arrows. So I think it's just as important to have the best arrow for your bow as it is having the best cartridge for your rifle. Now, with that being said, I want to talk a little bit about my setup and tips and tricks that I have learned along the way through trials and tribulations on exactly how I can get that perfect arrow setup. And then once you build and understand what your setup is, it's not expensive to maintain that setup. So yes, it is a little expensive sometimes to build it, but even myself on a budget saying I want to use these arrows, being able to buy the components and have them set aside so you can upgrade and fix and tweak your setup every once in a while is very crucial. So I have multiple things here that I've learned over the last 3 years of making and doing my own arrow setup that I would like to share with you, so you have these tips and tricks to bring to your arrow setup to help you out and hopefully make you a more lethal hunter or better archer in general. Some of these things I didn't even think about until, shoot, I've been shooting a bow for the last 13 years, and some of these things I didn't learn until 2 years ago, and until I started taping some of the things I did. So I hope this helps you guys out a little bit. You can take some of these tips and tricks and help your setup. So first off, this is the bow I've been shooting out of. This is RX-7 Ultra. Now that being said, yes, this is a premium bow, but I have had 2 Matthews reasons. I've had a couple different cheaper bows that I've always rocked the same arrow setup. So a couple years ago, I was doing nothing but running your standard Fletch, plain Jane, full metal jackets by Eason, and I loved them. I thought they were the best you could buy in the market. They're kind of expensive, but I was like, hey, you get what you pay for. As soon as I figured out that there's better ways to do it and you don't need to just have your plain Jane arrow setup, that's when I started getting more accurate results. So now I'm using the Victory Rip TKO, and my setup that I'm using this year is a 100 grain head, 75 grain outsert, half outsert. I'm using an AAE wrap, and then these are the AAE Max Stealth Vanes. And the reason, I'm going to explain why I went with every piece of this component. And before you're like, holy cow, these arrows are super expensive, I bought this arrow last year, half dozen, and ran it through my whole last year's setup. And this actual arrow that I'm holding in front of you right now went through a mule deer I shot in December, no problem, pulled it out of the ground, and then reconfigured it so I can shoot again this year. So yes, are these arrows expensive? You're looking at about $85 to $90 bare arrow for a pack of 6. Now, is that a little pricey? Absolutely. But you're gonna spend $50, $60 on your standard gold tips, which you're probably gonna break into shooting a front quarter or hitting a brick or hitting a rock. Whereas this, yeah, there's a chance I might break it, but I can tweak my little components to be able to get this arrow back out there. Case in point, this is the first thing I would love to talk about, no pun intended on point, is your cert. So what I am running on this is from Victory. They have a bunch of certs that you can get. This is a half out cert, 75 grains, and this one is a mix of aluminum and steel. I had a lot of people tell me that do not, and I've seen it in a ton of YouTube videos, do not go with an aluminum cert because you're gonna just blow them out and they'll break. That being said, I would rather run an aluminum or a half steel cert than run a steel cert. Case in point, this is a full out cert for the same arrow. This is the cert that I ran last year. The Bowtech that I used to talk to all the time about this stuff suggested these. These are 50 grains, full steel, and the tip of your arrow slides all the way up and is right here, right? Now, did these break? Yes, they would still bend. You put enough force behind them, they're still gonna bend. Now, with that being said, this is the issue I ran into. If I missed a target at an archery range and hit a rock, this guy wouldn't break, but what it would do is it would mushroom the tip of my arrow right here, and it would fold back that carbon head of the arrow, and it would not destroy my my insert, but it would destroy my arrow. So you're talking about a possible $11, $12 arrow that I just broke, but I ended up saving the $2, $1 insert. Didn't make sense to me. So I was like, that doesn't make sense. And why am I mushrooming the end of my arrow? Shouldn't it be a little bit stronger at that point of tension where you're gonna hit a target? Shouldn't it be stronger? So then I remembered that all of your RIP TKOs came with this cert. Now this is a half insert, so your arrow actually slides in, it comes all the way up to about here. It has this big collar that protects it. Now this is fully aluminum and this is 50 grains. Now I did not want the 50 grains from the factory, even though I think this is a great option. I wanted a little bit more weight in the front and try to push my grains up a little bit higher so I had an all-around good mule deer, whitetail, and elk arrow. So I was like, 75, I can go to a 75 grain and get half of the component is steel. So that's exactly what I did. I went and I bought, Victory makes these inserts here, okay? This is for a RIP TKO, and this is what SKU number if you need it. But what I would say about these is you're looking at pretty much the exact same insert, okay? The only difference is this one is part steel, this one is just 100% aluminum, so obviously the steel one's a little bit heavier. And what I learned is I just went to the range, shot the other day, and a foam target had a metal rod in its leg. I hit low as I was sighting in, hit low, hit that steel rod, and I bent that insert. Now it was bent just enough where I was put it there on a roller and I would get a wobble. As soon as I saw that, I was like, hey, we gotta take that out. So took that insert out, cleaned that arrow, put that insert back in. My arrow's good to go, ready to go. I didn't break the arrow, everything's perfect. Now that's what I wanted. I wanted to protect the shaft and then give a little bit more protection to the head, but be able to take them in and out if needed. That brings me to my second component I think is very crucial. Now, for years and years, I've used glue to glue in an insert. Now, this is probably my favorite glue for bonding pretty much any Vane. It's the tack. It's so good. It works phenomenal, and less is more with this stuff, so it just does a wonderful job doing my Vanes. So I thought, hey, this is all I'll use in my inserts. Did it for all the way up until about a year ago. And then I ended up switching to this hot melt. Once you use hot melt on an insert, you will probably absolutely never go back to using glue again. So this hot melt, it depends on what you get. I got this Western Archery here in town in Colorado, and it's cheap, very cheap. This is the hot melt you're gonna get, the glue. And this stick right here was $3.99. Very cheap, right? And all you do, you can take a lighter, you can take a blow dryer, you can take anything that provides heat, and you heat up a little end of this, as you can see I did right here. And then you just take your insert, roll on a little bit of glue, and then slide it in. And once you slide it in, you can actually spin that insert for a second and then get that even coating of glue on the bottom. A very smart guy I know from Alabama told me, Georgia, told me to put that arrow dead on its head. Let all that glue soak down to the bottom. That way it's not all leaned to one side if you have the arrow sitting a certain way. Now the best thing about this, and you can see the guys from Elk Shape tell you this time and time again, is you can heat up that glue and spin that insert in there to perfectly tune your head to make sure that all that glue is dispersed evenly and you don't have a puddle of glue, if you will, on the inside of your insert. What's amazing about it though is it gives you the ability to pull this head out whenever you want. All I do is I take a lighter, put it up against the edge of the insert, not the shaft, light it, get this piece hot. Once it doesn't take long, you'll actually see right around this edge here, you'll actually see some of the hot melt bubble a little bit. And then I normally just take a washcloth, a rag, grab the insert, pull it out. Once it's out, you'll be able to see the glue in there that's still in there from the residue. And I just take a Q-tip, clean all the glue out real quick. As soon as the glue's out, you have a bare shaft ready to go for another insert. As soon as that's done, I just went back to my bag, grab a new insert, slid it back in here with some new hot melt, and she's good to go again. Okay, all ready to go. Next best thing is, you've probably seen it before, you got all that like clear glue down the insert. Well, the best thing you can do is go ahead, heat it up. It's gonna get hot and waxy like, and you just take a paper towel, washcloth, and you wipe that off and you clean your shaft. I think the new, I wouldn't say new, but the next best thing that they have on the market that hasn't been utilized, I think, to its full potential is hot melt. Hot melt, I think, really can save the archer time and money. Because if I can keep this shaft ready to go, good, straight, I can use it to years to come and just continue to use this arrow and just replace my inserts. Because I just redid all my arrows with these new inserts and getting amazing accuracy. By putting more grains up front, you're making your FOC that much better to get that weight forward to make this arrow hit a little bit harder. Now, that brings me to the back of the arrow. So, a few things about these arrows. All of them have a spine alignment arrow. You see that right here, which makes it super, super easy to fletch your own arrows. Now, what's great about that is I already, on this pack, this group of arrows that I have sitting here, have shot off, and the cover photo for this will actually be the arrow that I shot off, have shot off these vanes. Now, if you shoot a vane off by hitting it with another arrow, one, good job, you're doing the right thing, you're staying accurate. Two, it's so easy to repair this arrow. So this arrow right here, I'm holding in my hands, I actually shot off this vane and replaced it. Okay, now I want to talk about how I did that. So I have Arizona Quick Fletch. This is a left helical. Okay, little tip or trick, if you get one of these and you have a right helical bow, or you switch your strings and now you're spinning to the right, you can actually go on their site, buy replacement heads, arms, okay, correction, and that'll help you out to just, okay, cool, pop these out, put the new ones on. I don't have to go buy the $40 part, I don't gotta buy the $10 part, which I think is a big deal. Now, replacing these, so easy. Put your arrow in, grab a new fletching out of your, spin it and line two of them up, okay? Slide those arms up on there so they match up, so you know that your arrow is actually in sync with the jig. And then let's say I was replacing this one, all I have to do is re-glue it, put it back up, and now I've just replaced that one without having to cut off every single fletching. I think this is a game changer. I used to use the boning Fletcher jig, which does one at a time, and I would always mess it up and be a little bit off center, whereas this kind of does it all for you. Now, why I'm shooting with a helical, okay? I like the idea of being able to put a helical on it to help steer broadheads, but not only that, but if you really think about it, going back to the same concept of a rifle, You have smooth bore muskets that would shoot, and then when they put in rifling, that's how you got a sharpshooter. That's how you were more and more accurate as the years went on. So why wouldn't you try to do that with your same setup for an arrow? And I really like the idea of being able to have a good helical and steer that broadhead better. But not only that, the helical actually shows you kind of what's wrong with your arrow. And I'm going to get into that a little bit of why I also use such bright colors. Now, you can go back and look at one of my shorts in there. I'm actually shooting at a longer distance. It's about 65 yards. Now, why the bright arrow and then why the helical? When I shoot, you can actually watch the arrow spin all the way to the target and watch the arrow fly. I think that is very important and valuable, because if you have a buddy standing next to you, or it's even easier to notice for yourself at longer distances, if you shoot and you can see that arrow do this in flight, back and forth, where it kicks one way and then straightens itself out, now you know you have an issue with your rest, or you have an issue with your timing, or your string, or one of your yokes from the top or the bottom. You now know you have a little bit of a tuning issue, or maybe you just need to shift that rest to the left or right. For something as easy as I'm going to go shoot in the backyard at a target and be able to just watch that arrow flight and see something's not right without taking it to a pro shop and spending more money, I think that's worth every penny. I think that's more valuable than anything else. You see a lot of YouTubers also nowadays using brighter colors, and I think most of it is when you shoot, you can see the arrow flying, right? And that's cool. But what it also provides us hunters is if you shoot this fletching and you can see it in those either dark forest because it's a different brighter color, or in low light conditions, and you can see that arrow and then you see that color disappear, you know that it entered a body cavity, and you know that, okay, that arrow hit its mark. I like the bright color concept for that aspect. I like it so I can find my arrows, because believe it or not, everybody misses, and you still gotta find your stuff. So I like that aspect. It's also a way for it to be yours. It's a signature thing for you. I know when I go shoot this thing, chances of another person having the exact same setup, probably pretty slim. And then all of a sudden, if they do, like, cool, you just found a best friend. But the other aspect is this material for a wrap is very slick. And I like the fact that with a yellow, if I get a ton of blood all over it, like I did last year, I can walk out, pull that blood off because it is so slick, look at it in my hand and see exactly what kind of blood it is, if where I probably hit that animal at. And then two, being able to, in a way, being able to find that arrow even if it's like bloody and messy and just got destroyed. I really like bright color veins. I actually shot a bright green color for a while, but it was like a forest green, and lost so many dang arrows over that. So I really think bright arrows kind of help you out. Now, bringing that up, talking about fletchings. So I actually went with the Max Stealth from AEE. I think Max Stealth is probably one of the best you can get now. I was rocking the Hybrid Hunters for a while. The difference between the Hybrid Hunter and the Max Stealth is this is gonna have like, it's almost like ribbed. So it's gonna be kind of hard. Maybe I can get it. You can kind of see with the A here, it's got that like ribbed material to it. Now this is gonna be like an extra 5 grains heavier. Now, what I like about this guy though, is it holds its rigidity with the helical so much better. And I don't know if this is true or not, but when you shoot paper tune, this guy's gonna rip through that paper pretty quick. So I like to think that this is still gonna cause trauma in that cavity. You're shooting a broadhead through, and obviously it's cutting and it's doing a good job. But if I had a pretty hard plastic rubber material flying through my flesh, is it going to break a bone? Absolutely not. Is it going to probably rip some flesh with a fletching? I'm pretty sure it will, at flying 300 feet per second through your body, that this is going to rip some skin and flesh apart. So I still think these vanes are pretty cool, pretty violent with those little channels, but they just hold winds. They push wind so well, and they also keep that rigidity, because especially with these Hoyt quivers, they keep your arrows stacked so tight that you can see like some of these vanes are touching, and I never had one get like stuck in a bent position. So I really think this AEE vanes are just doing that next level of what you need them to do to keep that bow steering. Now, this brings me to pricing. Inserts, that front insert for a 75 grain one, you're looking at about 40 bucks. You can find them sometimes for like 35. They come in a pack of 12. I don't think that's too bad when you consider you can buy your arrows and rock the 50 grain one for a while. And if you wanted to stick with 50 grains, you could go to the steel 50 grain and you could switch these out, and it's not going to break the bank. You're just going to go buy that component. I already told you the arrow itself, about 100 bucks for about 6 of them. You can tell right here just how much I've shot this guy. It's all like you can barely read some of this stuff. I think they're worth it. The Rip TKOs, they keep their straightness. They absolutely phenomenal on how durable this carbon fiber is. It does phenomenal. And then coming up to my wraps, you can get a pack of 12 wraps. They actually come in a baker's dozen of 13 now. You can buy these for about 10 bucks. And then for your vanes, you're looking at about 10 to 15 bucks. So, but when you do your vanes, remember, you're gonna come in a pack like this. Normally they have, I believe it's 40 vanes in here. That'll get you to do an entire dozen, but you're talking 10 bucks. If I blow this vane out right now, I'm gonna be able to take this guy and put another vane on it, and this arrow's back in shape, good to go. So all in all, I think it's kind of one of those things where if you break it down by price, is it worth it to shoot a nicer arrow and then build on your components? Absolutely. You're gonna save a ton of money by being able to switch components out. You break a component, take that component off, put a new component on, protect your shaft, and be able to change kind of how your arrow flies and how it gets accurate, and tinker with it. And when you start working on a piece like an arrow and stop buying it just straight from the shop and throwing it on there exactly how you buy it, you have more respect for the process of making that arrow, which is going to make you concentrate, not take so many risky shots, and being able to love what you have done and have ownership in that product, which I think is very, very valuable for an archer who, I mean,